The U.S. government has now confirmed that aliens are real. Well, kind of. On Wednesday, July 26th, a Congress subcommittee held another UAP hearing and discussed the possibility of alien life and technology. The internet has been aghast because of this hearing, and the shock is mostly revolving around the statements of David Grush. Grush is a former intelligence officer with 14 years of service to the U.S. military. His love for military service began at least with his enrollment in an Air Force program in college. Shortly after his college years, he would go on to serve a very intense career within the military. He was enlisted as a second lieutenant within the Air Force, moved up into the intelligence sector, and helped bring down Taliban leaders during the Iraq War. During his time in the military, he received various awards and medals. Grush eventually became a major within the Air Force, where he would conduct service in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office. In 2019, he was chosen to be the NRO's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, now known as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. Grush was given the highest security clearance to investigate all of the available documents involved with aliens and UAPs. All of this would eventually lead him to the monumental moment on July 26, 2023, when he would claim that the U.S. government has had a covert program dedicated to the retrieval and reverse engineering of crashed UAPs. Here are some clips of his testimony.
My testimony is based on information I've been given by individuals with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country. At the time, due to my extensive executive-level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes.
Anyone been murdered that you would that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities. I do have knowledge of active planned reprisal activity against myself and other colleagues, and it's very, very upsetting to me.
Coming from where?
Certain senior leadership at previous agencies I was associated with.
How do you account for that response? That seems like a bizarre response.
I call it administrative terrorism. That's their quiver, their tool in the toolbox to silence people, especially the career government service cares about their career, cares about their clearance, their reputation to climb the ladder. And when you threaten that career path, a lot of people back off.
Do you have knowledge or do you have reason to believe that there are programs in the advanced tech space that are unsanctioned?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
How does a program like that get funded?
Misappropriation of funds and
Does that mean that there is money in the budget that is said to go to a program, but it doesn't, and it goes to something else?
Yes, I have specific knowledge of that. Yep.
Do you think U.S. corporations are overcharging for certain tech they're selling to the U.S. government, and that additional money is going to programs?
Correct, through something called IRAD.
So who gets to decide this, in your opinion, in the past?
It's a group of career senior executive officials.
Okay, are they government officials?
Both in and out.
Do what?
Both in and out of government, and that's about as far as I can go there.
Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity, and I got to...
By UAPs or by people within the federal government?
Both.
Okay, yeah. So there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed, myself and my wife, was very disturbing.
You've said that the U.S. has intact spacecraft. You said that the government has alien bodies or alien species. Have you seen the spacecraft?
I have to be careful to describe what I've seen firsthand and not in this environment, but I could answer that question behind closed doors. Yeah.
And you have mentioned that there's interdimensional potential. Could you expound on that?
Multidimensionality, that kind of thing. The framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics, and that is, if you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross.
These aircraft, have they been identified that they are being produced by domestic, military and contractors? Is there any evidence that that's what's being recovered?
Not to my knowledge, plus the recoveries predate a lot of our advanced programs that I previously am witting of, so.
Would it be safe to say that there could be a scenario today where you have an aircraft that crashes and because it's been involved in one program from one federal agency, but the agency that retrieves it is not aware of that program, and to them it appears alien in origin?
I mean, that's a hypothetical situation. I'm not aware of any historical situation that would match that.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Are you aware of any individuals that are participating in reverse engineering programs for non-terrestrial craft?
Personally, yes. Mm-hmm.
Alongside Grush were a couple other members advocating for government transparency as they admitted that they too have witnessed UAP activity. U.S. Navy fighter pilot Ryan Graves claimed that he encountered a UAP off the coast of Virginia Beach during a training exercise. He is among the many military personnel with such experiences who believe that these UAPs might pose a threat to our national security. In an interview for NBC, he stated, "Unidentified objects in our airspace present an urgent and critical safety and national security issue, but pilots are not getting the support they need and the respect they deserve. When I served, my squadron was encountering UAP nearly every day and nothing was being done." Graves has been at the forefront for military whistleblowers with his newly created organization, Americans for Safe Aerospace, which is the first pilot-led advocacy group dedicated to changing policy within the government to provide more transparency on UAPs, investigation on documents and accounts, and also protection for whistleblowers. Are these men telling the truth, or are they being misled and in turn misleading the American people? I can't imagine that a man like Grush, with 14 years of intense higher-up authority within the military, would just begin to undo all of that with wild claims about UAPs. His dedication and loyalty to the military hierarchy is obvious with his past career. He's either being truthful after having the privilege of having access to documents, or playing his role in a disinformation campaign, or is a victim of a disinformation campaign who believes what he's being told is real when really it's a double-blind psyop. His testimony and everything going on reminds me of what the late retired Navy intelligence radio broadcaster and author William Cooper had once said.
What do you think about aliens?
I don't think there are any. At one time, I thought that there were, simply based upon documents that I'd seen while I was attached to the intelligence briefing team, the commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet. At that time, and even for many years afterwards, I did not believe that the government would use me in that way. I had devoted my whole life to government service. I had been in the Air Force, I was in the Navy, I was a river patrol boat captain in Vietnam. I had proved myself. I had combat ribbons with the V for Valor. there was no doubt of my loyalty to my country. And maybe that's why it was so easy to use me, because I wouldn't doubt that what I saw was real. But over the years, I've done a lot of research. And what I've discovered is there's no proof existing anywhere that extraterrestrials are real, or that have ever visited this planet, or that they exist anywhere in the universe. There is not one shred of evidence anywhere. There is lots of evidence, tons of it in fact, that there are a group of people collectively known as the Illuminati who want us to believe in some extraterrestrial threat from space so that they can cause a world government, bringing together of all the people to resist that external threat. And the first time that I saw any reference to that, I was reading some papers from the Carnegie Endowment Fund, and there was a record of a speech. It was a dinner for Viscount Ishii of the Japanese delegation, the Japanese imperial delegation, in 1917. And John Dewey was one of the speakers. And the first sentence out of his mouth, as I was reading this, I almost fell out of my chair, because this was in 1917, and he said the best way to cause all the people of the world to come together in one world government and end war forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet. And boy, that just clicked with me, and I knew that that this is just another scam. This is the age of deception. There's no doubt about it.